Welcome, dear students. Today we will begin the history chapter number 3, kinship, caste and class. The slides are taken from HSS Live. So watch the video. You can pause in between and note down the important information. Today's topic is beyond birth, resources and status. Beyond birth, resources and status. The social positions of different sections were often shaped by their access to economic resources. Okay, so very clearly it is written that the wealth ultimately decided your social position and status. How much resources, the economic resources you are in control of, that will going to define your social status and position. Okay, so this was practiced that time also, and today also we know the more you have wealth, the more your position in society will be better. The criteria on which property is granted was followed on two principles. Number one, on the basis of gender, and number two, on the basis of varna. Okay, now according to gendered access to property, the access to resources or wealth sharpened the social differences between man and women. So here gender discrimination, you can see the social differences created between man and women. According to Manusmriti, the women were not eligible to claim a share in the parental property. Okay, so according to Manusmriti, the social codes which he writes very clearly says women, in other words, the daughter will not have any claim over parental property. We know that today in modern time this rule is not applicable in our system. Today daughters have their share of claim upon the property of their parents. The parental property was divided amongst sons after the death of parents, with a special share for the eldest. Even parental property, suppose 4 sons are there and the eldest one will get the lion's portion, the bigger portion, rest of the get lesser portion. This is also described in Manusmriti. However, the woman could retain the gift they received on the occasion of their marriage as Istridhan. Okay, Istridhan, when they received from their parents at the time of marriage, that was a thing which she can claim as her own property. This could be inherited by her children. So all that is part of Istridhan, she can give it to her children without the husband having any claim to it. Husband cannot claim that whatever Istridhan she is having, it is mine. No, it will go to her children. According to Manusmriti, women were not supposed to hold family property and their own valuables without their husband's permission. So you find Manusmriti is defining that woman has to be subservient in submission of the husband, and she cannot hold the family property. She has to take husband's permission. All these things are written in Manusmriti. So today also we find that in our culture, husband is always the head of the family and wife has to take the permission all the time to get the things done. You can find that this concept of family life is it is mentioned in Manusmriti. Therefore, we are practicing that. Both epigraphic and textual evidences suggest that while upper class women may have had access to resources, land, cattle, and money, but they were generally controlled by man. So only namesake she was having resources, but basically the men in the house, they were controlling entire thing. Now, according to Varna, access to the property. According to Brahminical texts, the only occupation prescribed for Shudra was servitude. So out of 4 Varnas, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, Shudras, okay, they cannot have any property. They have to be servants of Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Shudras. Servitude means they have to almost work like servant or a slave for them. While a variety of occupation were assigned to the first 3 Varnas. First 3 Varnas can choose varieties of occupation. But what about Shudras? No, they are simply servants. The wealthiest people would have been the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. Buddhism recognized that division of society is prevalent in society, but did not regard these as natural or inflexible. They also rejected the idea of claim for higher status on the basis of birth. So remember, when we find that according to Varna, the property access in this, we find that the Brahmins and Kshatriyas were having maximum economic resources in their control. And who were not having any control over resources? Shudras were not having any control. So they remain poor. Even today also, we find the same thing. The Shudras are still very poor. An alternative social scenario, sharing wealth. But when you read in Tamil Sangam literature, you find that very beautifully they are defining that those who were economically rich, it was their responsibility to share their resources with others. So Tamil Sangam anthologies illustrate economic social relationships, suggesting that while there were differences between rich and poor, those who control resources were expected to share them. So here we find a responsibility comes upon the shoulder of the rich people, the upper caste, that they should share their resources with the poor people. Explaining social differences, a social contract. The myth found in Sutta Pitaka suggests. Sutta Pitaka, okay, one of the literature. There is one myth found there. What is that? Let us understand. The institution of kingship was based on human choice, with taxes as form of payment for services rendered by the king. So in Sutta Pitaka, it is very clearly written, anyone who will act as the king, okay, he has to render his services, his help to his subjects, but in return king is entitled to take the taxes from the people. It is defined very clearly. At the same time, it reveals recognition of human agency in creating and institutionalizing economic and social relations. Okay. It also recognizes the fact that since human beings are responsible for creation of the system, they could also change it in future. Okay. So here you find in Sutta Pitaka, they are defining whatever institutions man has created, whether social or economic institution, they all are created by man. Therefore, it can be changed in future. There is no rigidity that you have to follow this. No, Lakir ke Fakir was not the idea. You can change. So this is how we find that king, he ruled over the people. It was like a social contract. He will provide protection to them, services to them, and in return he will get the money in the name of taxes and revenues. So this is a system, and written it could be changed in future. The king was elected by the whole people, Mahasamata. So king was elected by the people. So here you find that in Sutta Pitaka it is very clearly defined about this special social contract.